going to go ahead and start. Let me change the top chat to the live chat. I don't know why it fucking does that, but we are now live in the after show. Welcome. We're going to be continuing on with this CBC video. Karen's not here right now, so I'm just waiting for her to get back. There aren't a lot of people watching when there is an ad. She's not bailing. She said she was going to join me on it. She just needed to do something first. You know what? I'm going to get a cup of coffee real quick. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. And we're live already. So I'm just, I guess nobody's here. We only have 2 people in our after show. This breaks my heart. I bet if Allison was here, everybody would be in this after show.
Oh, fuck that shit. I'm here. Everybody loves me.
Well, that's true.
Karan Strong named herself after me.
That's true. Or she improved the name.
No, it's the other way around.
Oh, I'm named after you, is it?
Actually, didn't we technically...
Yes.
Where's Ancapistan? Shouldn't Ancapistan be in here? He should just change his name to that. I'm just saying. Okay, do you guys need to see the video? Because I could just play it and you could listen to the video. Because all it is 4 talking heads. And they're not really... They're not bringing much to the table in terms of visual. The Quran came first. It is older. Don't need to see the cunts. Okay. Yeah, they're ugly cunts anyways. All right, we're going to go ahead and... you know what? By the way, that Hindu nothing joke, I made that up on the spot. So I want credit for that because I think it's pretty good. I'm going to copyright it. I want a quarter every time somebody says it. All right, so anyway, let's hit play. Karen, can you hear it when I play it? Are you ready?
And I think...
Did you hear that?
Yes, I can hear it. Okay. I heard that.
All right, let's go back a little bit.
Great financial support for people when they're in need. And I think we need to look forward now and set this as the new bar, the new standard for the next time when someone's hurt, that we step up in this significant and powerful way. I do want to add, though, that...
Wait, what? People did step up. They raised $13 million for the families, and they grieved, and everyone talked to... Oh, we're talking about the journalist.
Or no, maybe we're still talking about the Pulse nightclub?
Let's go back and get some context. I don't know.
Yeah, we should go back.
Okay.
Because I forget.
Yeah, I'll go back a little bit.
People who didn't stop and mourn, there were people who kept on walking.
That's about the Pulse nightclub right there.
Yeah.
And that hurts. And I think Humboldt is a reminder that we as Canadians have the capacity for great compassion and great love and great financial support for people when they're in need. And I think we need to look forward now and set this as the new bar, the new standard for the next time when someone's hurt, that we step up in this significant and powerful way.
Oh, give me a fucking break, okay? Give me a fucking break.
Like, again, I already said we raised more money for Pulse. Yes, there were more victims, for sure. And I'm sure there was way... Because it got
well, here's
huge
the thing
amounts
too,
of attention.
With the Pulse thing, I would guess that... that some, like, I don't know how catastrophic the injuries were of the people who didn't die. right?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
And, you know, so we're looking at, you know, because it all depends with a gun. It all depends on where you get hit,
Or
right?
if you get hit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But with a fucking semi trailer, right?
Mm-hmm.
It really doesn't fucking matter where you get hit if you're flying like, you know, 100 meters into a fucking cornfield.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably not going to make it.
For those wondering, that was not a truck of peace. That was just a truck.
It was just a truck.
It didn't have an. Yeah, it was a Sikh was driving it, but it was not a truck.
Well,
of peace.
at least as far as we know, it was a Sikh man who was driving it, and he is like, I think he's like his boss was interviewed, right? The guy who owns the company, and the company is small. There's only 2 trucks. Right, and the boss drives one, and this other guy drives the other. So I'm guessing, and the boss is Sikh, and I'm guessing his one employee is also Sikh, right?
Yeah.
Because Sikhs are one of the weirdest kinds of immigrant groups because they really stick together in terms of helping out their own community, but they also really want to integrate. So one of the first things that the Sikh community in Edmonton did was get somebody to and this is hilarious because it meshes with this whole fucking thing in some kind of weird synchronicity. One of the first things the Sikh community in Edmonton did when they got large enough was they actually funded an official Sikh like, I don't know the language that they speak, but a translation into their language of the play-by-play and commentary for the hockey games.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to be able to participate in the culture that they had become a part of, right? They wanted to integrate, they wanted to participate, they wanted to be part of it. Right. So even though they are somewhat like isolationist or like, I guess you could say nepotistic, right? They're nepotistic, but they're not xenophobic. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they want to help out their own because they're a very, very small community of people in terms of, you know, percentage of the population and all of that. So there's some nepotism going on there. But at the same time, they want to participate fully in Canadian life, by and large, right? So, yeah. So I mean, like they're actually, it's one of the things I really appreciate about them.
No, Sikhs are fucking cool.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with them. I'm not crazy. I think Bunty King is a bit lame, but otherwise though, Sikhs are cool. All right.
Well, Bunty King is lame, but he's not a problem.
No, I don't think he's a problem at all.
Yeah. So.
I do want to add, though, that I think it's tough to have these conversations because there are a lot of people who just have difficulty hearing it. You know, at the center, we talk about systemic racism, social injustice, LGBTQ issues, and it's tough for people who don't personally relate to these issues to understand how it works. No one wants to be called a racist. No one wants to be called a homophobe. No one wants to be called an oppressor. And yet, whether we like to believe it or not, each one of us, including myself, does things that hurt and hurt people.
Michael?
Okay, but how does that make you an oppressor? Like that's what I don't understand, right? Like, does anybody even fucking know what the word oppression means anymore? Oppression is not like when your doctor tells you need to lose weight, for fuck's sake, right?
Yeah.
Oppression is not when you're asked to leave a fucking Starbucks, right? Because you just told the fucking cashier, yeah, we don't intend to buy anything, but we want to use the bathroom and wait here until our friend arrives. Right? It's like, what?
I don't.
What?
It's like they can't just talk about the tragedy. Like, I don't know if it's a programming thing, but we have gone so far off of what the original, like, people who clicked on this video wanted to hear about the woman who made the insensitive tweet and how it relates to the accident. And they're not being, but they went there for that. And after about 2 minutes, now they're learning all about intersectionality. It's got nothing to do with what actually happened. Nothing. And they're doing it from this like perspective of we need to care even more. And like that's like the, you know, the velvet glove of empathy, while at the same time asking people to essentially ignore what happened to those teenage boys on that bus, whether they're alive or dead, because systemic racism, sexism, and LGBTQ issues. I'm waiting for them to throw Islam into the mix. I'm waiting for the Islamophobia bit because that's the cherry on top.
And so we need to challenge our behavior to do better. And how we have that difficult conversation, you know, when do we have that difficult conversation is a very important question.
You guys are constantly having this fucking conversation. It's like I can't even get away from it. And I mean, I don't mean that.
Yeah, not like the bodies aren't even cold and we can't get away from the conversation.
Yes, so, something happens to men and we still can't get away from the conversation.
Michael, what about that question?
Away from the conversation of you know, we support men too much.
Yeah.
We need to support, like, especially white men. We need to support other people who aren't white men more constantly every day. That's all I fucking hear.
I would have been annoyed if a men's rights activist politicized this accident. I would have been annoyed at that because it's just like, I just care that it happened. I didn't even, like, when Lindsay first told me, you know, that this happened, this was before this tweet came out and it just happened and she learned about it and she was like, oh man, did you hear about this? And it was really tragic. And I was like, oh, that's fucked up. You know, I didn't say, you know, this is what happens with men. Like, I didn't say that. I did acknowledge that it was likely mostly men, but only because that's how she described it. She's like, well, yeah, this small town lost this many of their boys, you know, or because she was working under the assumption they were all from, you know, the place that whatever. But but it doesn't even matter that's not entirely true because families lost their sons and one family lost a daughter. Or because a couple of these guys, like the bus driver was killed and he's in his 40s, you know, some kids lost the father, you know?
Yeah.
Or maybe a few kids lost their fathers. So this is just, it's just a tragedy. I don't think it doesn't need to be politicized. It doesn't need to be put through the lens of whatever. And I think if it was, for me anyway, I would have been annoyed by it, you know?
Well, and you know, like, you have to look at it too, right? Like, from the lens of that hockey thing, right? Where, you know, you literally had some of these big, very popular NHL teams like the Blackhawks, right, supporting the fundraiser and tweeting it and all of that, right? So, you know, and you have this sort of, the hockey community, like I was describing, is, you know, it's like sort of this network of families that are all sort of interlinked, and this huge amount of camaraderie and mentorship and all of that. So it's it's our national pride, our national sport, our national pastime.
Sure.
So it's like, it's something that, you know, it's very rare Canadian, I think, that has never been to a hockey game at some point in their life at some level, whether it's, you know, a bunch of 8-year-olds playing really lame hockey, or whether it's you know, an NHL game. So that you decided you were willing to dish out the $85 for the ticket, right? So it's essentially like, I've never been to a baseball game. Like, I've never cared to watch it. But I watch hockey. I watch the highlights. I watch the replays. I watch the best saves of the game and things like that during the playoffs. And I listened to my guy constantly talk about, because he was a goalie, constantly talk about which goalie has, you know, what competencies and how he could improve and what saves were the best, and holy shit, and he plays the stuff for me. And you know, I used to follow hockey back when I was living in British Columbia, sort of during the Dan Cloutier goalie days of the Vancouver Canucks, where I had to stop following hockey because I was just getting too furious. Because Dan Cloutier was a fucking retard.
Yeah.
But you know, like, so I did follow it for quite a while, and I've never followed any other sport. So it's like my brother-in-law, every winter, when he was living in Ottawa, when my sister and him were living in Ottawa, every winter he would make a rink in the backyard. Both his boys play hockey.
Mm-hmm.
He plays hockey on a pickup team, right? One of the things that I freaking, you know, I think I tweeted it. It was like so awesome, and I sent it to everybody in the Edmonton politically incorrect Edmonton Skype chat. Right? Was the, you know, you have the goalie, the main goalie, you have the backup goalie, and then you have like this standby emergency goalie. And that's a guy who plays in a local league. He's not a professional. He's not a member of the team. He's just there just in case both goalies are unable to play. And for the very first time ever in the entire history of the NHL, right, this particular goalie, who is essentially given free tickets to sit and sits and watches the game and is on call just in case he's needed, right? For the first time ever in the NHL, he was called onto the ice. He's like some like 35 or 40-year-old accountant,
yeah,
right, who played on a local pickup team, and he got in goal halfway through the third period, made 7 saves, 7 shots on goal, 7 saves. 3 of them were spectacular fucking saves, unbelievable saves, right? Won the game for the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely glorious. Like, it's sort of like that moment when you're like, holy fuck, that was amazing, right? I don't even know if Americans feel the same way, right? Even me, as somebody who doesn't really follow hockey anymore, I don't watch full games anymore or anything like that. I'm watching that, I'm like, holy fuck, that's so great. That's so fucking great.
Oh yeah,
because it's hockey. It's hockey.
Oh, absolutely. I'm with that. Like, I can be not into something but also have tremendous respect and reverence for it, especially if it's something that, you know, you get, there's like a cultural, it's not just something that people do, you know, it's connected to the culture in some way that is it's like, you know, important to it. Like for here in the States, it's baseball, you know, so and that's also football is a big deal too.
Like I said before, I didn't think that I don't think that it would be baseball if they stopped selling beer at baseball games.
Yeah, and the hot dogs. Yeah. Okay, let's continue the video.
And McLean, and your response to what McLean's had to say.
Well, I write for McLean sometimes, and I think...
McLean's the company that said that they distanced themselves from her. They found that her tweet was totally inappropriate. However, they also don't want to talk about it because they don't want to, you know, they're sensitive to what just happened. Unlike the woman who made the tweet. They're like, oh, this isn't it's not appropriate for us to talk about this right now because people are still grieving. But, you know...
And we don't... Well, but I can understand that. They don't want to blow it up anymore either, right? Like,
yeah, for sure. All right, so just so you guys know who they're talking about.
And look, they're in a very difficult position, and what they've said there, if you think about it, they've hedged their bets, but that's probably about the best you can ask for. And they're not directly involved in this. They've been brought into the equation, but it's not really their issue. And I don't think they've been particularly unfair. The notion of free speech, and this is something else that has to be said, you know, both left and right can be oppressive and rude and abusive and vulgar. Anyone who thinks it's only the right or only the left doesn't understand social media and the nature of politics.
I agree with all of that so far. No issues there.
But some of those people who have been attacking this tweet and other similar situations are the first to say that their free speech is being limited For example, the Jordan Peterson issue. Here was someone he's got millions of people now around him who says a champion of free speech. Well, I'm not saying that he's the issue here, but does free speech apply to all people? One tweet would not have hurt anyone, really, and I can't imagine many people in Humboldt were even aware of this. But it was made a public issue. And
No, I'm sure that they were made aware of it, for one. And secondly, just because somebody makes a tweet you don't like and then you tell them why you don't like it doesn't mean that you're against freedom of speech. I always hated that argument. Because people make counter arguments that you don't like doesn't mean that they don't think that you should not be allowed on social media. They just don't like what you said, and they're just telling you why they don't like what you said,
or that they don't like what you said. And and you know, like the idea that that it is kind of one of those things that, like, sometimes you can find yourself sort of in isolation, you know, abandoned, right? Like, okay, McLean's distanced themselves and all of this, and I think rightly so, right? And so, you know, like, I can assume she's feeling like nobody wants to actually help her defend herself or anything like that, right? But I don't know why he's bringing Jordan Peterson into this, but other than, did Jordan Peterson weigh in?
But I mean, Jordan Peterson started off, I think that the first video of him that leaked after the controversy was him shouting about free speech because he was trying to shout over the people trying to shout him down. But he hasn't finished making his point yet, so maybe there is more to it.
Okay.
Let's play the rest of this.
Major issue and an international issue, but all the reaction to it. And there was one mum in Humboldt, and God bless her, she put out a statement, and it really said, it replicated to a degree what the tweet said. Can we now, from this tragedy, move forward in a constructive way, and in terms of the Indigenous community and other divisions in society, build a better Canada? No one, this was not mocking terrible grief. This was not downplaying tragedy. It was saying, let's learn from this and make sure we treat all victims with the same respect and love.
Right,
but we do. Okay, so he didn't really have anything to go. I don't know why he brought up the Jordan.
We don't. I'm going to disagree with you. We don't.
We don't,
you know,
what?
Some victims are more worthy of compassion than others.
Okay.
Right? I'm going to totally buy that, but I mean, like, you're literally asking for this 2 days after this tragedy happened. Like, no. Like, it's just not, give it a week, for fuck's sake. Wait until it's not the top story on every fucking broadcast, right? Like, or any kind of current events show. Wait until it's like, you know, it's wait until the families have buried their kids, right? Before you start wanting to make this into a national conversation about the broader context in which this tragedy occurred and society's response to it, right? You know, maybe give it 6 months. I don't know how, I can't really say how long you have to give it.
Sure.
But 2 days before all the dead aren't even dead yet, that's a little much.
Yeah,
and to do it in a fucking tweet.
Yeah, just throwing it out there, right? And then opening up. There's like, it's like a drive-by comment. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess when I was saying, I think that no matter who the victims are, there are people who care. I think it's hard to measure, you know, if some people are getting more sympathy than others. I think that does happen, but I'm not really sure what you are hoping to get out of it. Like, you know, we talked about, they already mentioned some examples of things that the go-to things, which are, you know, LGBTQ people being killed by a serial murderer in Toronto. I guess that's where that's happening, right?
Yeah.
And then there's, you know, the Pulse nightclub shooting. And then you have Indigenous, you know, women that are disappearing, but of course are leaving out the men. And people know about this and they take it seriously, and it is affecting lives, not only the lives of the people within the groups that they're talking about, but also the people who are close to those people and people who are generally sympathetic, which I believe that not only most Canadians, but most human beings are going to be sympathetic. It's just the thing that I guess I wonder about is, why is it important that we be able to tangibly see that that every person who is a victim is getting the same amount of sympathy because I don't know how you can measure it unless they're just talking dollars, which, you know, I guess that's one way to do it.
Yeah.
But I don't see how that's helping anybody when, you know, there are people who are killed in Africa and the Middle East all the time. Oh, like every day, okay? And it's not a good thing, but I can't cry the same tears for that I could if, you know, the day that I had to put my dog down, because I knew my dog for 10 years. And I know that she's not a human being, but I'm so far removed from the people in, you know, Africa, whether it's, and it doesn't matter. Like, you know, when I say Africa, some people might think, oh, you know, the South African farmers, that's terrible. But it's also terrible that there are child soldiers that are being killed and raped that are African, like black Africans, or the ones that are being put to, you know, work in the diamond mines or whatever, you know, the men that are being thrown off of buildings in, you know, under Sharia. I saw a video yesterday of some guy who was accused of raping a 5-year-old in Yemen, and they brought him out for public execution. And you can watch the video on Facebook of him getting shot in the back of the head with an AK-47 until he died. Like, they didn't do it with one bullet. They made him suffer. And I watched that, and I was like, well, I don't know this guy, but this is really fucked up. By the way, this is what Jim wants for all pedophiles. He said that in a video, but that's all. He wants them all lined up and shot. But that's how strongly he feels against pedophiles. And it's important to note that we don't know if this man actually did it. We just know he was accused. And then they said, okay, and they gunned him down. He is likely not, I mean, I wouldn't say he's likely not guilty because I don't know. But, you know, there is a chance that he could have been innocent and they just killed him anyway. So, but, you know, like, these things happen everywhere. It's how do you measure the amount of empathy that you should be giving people? I think that, yes, we could talk about it, but where we, you know, how do we even start that conversation? It's asking a lot. And it seems like when I see these kinds of ideologues talk about it, they're coming from this, I know what the amount of empathy that every group gets, you know, that's like the perspective they're coming at it from. I know how much everyone gets, and the people that I think are the most important to protect are getting the least amount. And it's like, well, I don't know, because when those 15 kids got killed in that bus accident, you know, people with ideologies like yours didn't have a problem coming out and saying, well, can we talk about this other thing now? So I'm you know, I'm having a hard time buying this, basically. Anyway, all right, let's continue.
But where do you do that? I mean, online is so much a part of our lives now, Brittany.
Yes, and can I just say, just to circle back to the free speech conversation, it's very clear. Free speech defenders are only interested in defending white nationalism, defending white supremacy within this country, and defending those who don't want new immigrants, let's say, or racialized people.
Fuck off. Fuck off. Fuck off. Fuck you, bitch. Right? Actual free speech defenders are interested in defending free speech for everybody, including the unpopular opinions that you want to silence. Right? Nobody's telling you, right? Okay, if Stormfront, right, or some other fucking neo-Nazi group, right, made a tweet about a bunch of fucking black people who got shot and killed or whatever, and then their Twitter was inundated with 70,000 angry fucking tweets from social justice warriors, okay? Because, hey, nobody fucking cares when white people die. We only care when black people die, right? Okay, would you be defending their right to have said that? Would you be saying, and would you be also defending the right of the tweeters, the twits, right? To have said, yeah, you know, that was really offensive, right? Or would you be picking a side? Because you know what? From what I see at this point, the alt-righters aren't actually saying certain kinds of speech should be banned. It's just you.
Yeah,
for sure. You're the one doing it. You want to defend free speech for the people who agree with you, and you want to take it away from the people who don't, who happen to include the alt-right, white nationalists, white supremacists, fucking racists, you know, anti-feminists.
But not only them. Yep, anti-feminists, MRAs, conservatives, you know, people that understand economics, people who are against communism, you know, like just but I also want to say this though about the alt-right thing. They are okay with free speech now, but I have seen Richard Spencer on streams where he said that once they get into power, they would take away certain kinds of speech. So yeah, they're not much better. They're just I mean, to a degree, I see where she's coming from, but you're painting with too much of a broad brush to include people like Jordan Peterson, because I understand where you're coming from. Also, you have to understand that if you want free speech for yourself, you have to allow it to the people that you want least to have it. But it's the only way you can beat them, because if you take away people's speech and the ability to communicate, the only thing that's left is violence. And you don't want that. So, Mr. 303 just joined us. I'm sorry we're not using SciTube, but figured it'd be more convenient. Besides, the only thing you're missing are talking heads. This is just like a conversation on news, so the voices are just fine.
Yeah, it's all my fault for being late. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yes, it is your fault, and you should internalize that. Oh, and Kapistan is here, too.
You're bad, and you should feel bad. So.
Okay, so let us continue on.
Within their borders. So we always come back to this conversation when we ask, where are the free speech defenders? When it comes to racialized communities who speak out against injustice, how come they aren't coming to our defense? If we look at it time and time again, free speech defenders are only really interested in white nationalist conversations.
Okay, I just want to say that probably the reason why you think that that's happening is because the people who are most likely to get their speech taken away are white nationalists, which means that your narrative is the most popular narrative, right? I mean, at least in terms of like whether it's yours versus the white nationalists, because they're not in power. Okay, so let's say the white nationalists were able to take away people's speech and they had enough power to do so. Then your platform would not exist, and you guys would be the ones fighting for free speech, and the white nationalists would be the ones on the news saying the only reason why these progressives want platforms is because they want to talk about their diversity initiatives and you know, what is it, white genocide or whatever. You know, it would just be the inversion. Yeah. So you have to look at it like Jordan Peterson said this once, and I thought it was great. He said, what did he say? He said, if you want to limit speech, if you want to impose laws that limit speech, you have to be prepared to give the power to do that to the people that you least want to have it, because they're going to use it against you, and it will happen. So you have to believe in absolute free speech, because if you don't and you think, oh, well, let's like give the power of who should be able to say what to this small group of people, and it just so happens that right now they're the people that I agree with, so I'm going to give them all the power. Well, eventually they won't be the people in power, and the people that you least want to have that power will have it, and they will use it against you. So this is what you don't want, you know?
Or like what Christopher Hitchens said, which is like, okay, so there's how many people in this audience? Okay, so I want you all to think about if there's anybody that you know that you would trust to decide what you're allowed to see and hear and what you're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, yeah. Anybody in your life, your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your kids, you know, your uncle, anybody that you would say they should have the authority to decide what I'm allowed to see and hear, and I trust them to do what's best for me.
Yep. All right, so continuing on.
But also to circle back to that is, you can both acknowledge that the tweet was poorly timed and insensitive, also while acknowledging that the death threats and the violent statements and the violent DMs that Nora has been getting has been outrageous and wildly inappropriate. And
Wait a minute. Her tweet was really inappropriate, actually. But she's still allowed to make it. I wouldn't try to take that away from her. The response, there might have been some bad ones, but the worst ones were already shown. I'm fairly certain those are the worst ones, unless there is some that have really like bad language that they couldn't show. But I don't necessarily
or ones that that the police are investigating.
Oh yeah, or ones that the police could be looking into. But I mean, across the board, I think they should be able to make them either way. Like, I mean, she can say the crazy shit she said. I don't have a problem with it. But then people should be able to say whatever they're going to say in response. And if they're making actual threats, then people can look into them. But I don't think threats by themselves are illegal. I don't think. No.
Well, it depends on the threat, right?
Yeah,
like,
but I mean, can you arrest someone over a threat?
Yes.
In Canada? In Canada, you can. Okay, because not in the States. I don't believe so.
In the States, if it's credible.
Yeah, if it's credible.
So.
All right.
I think those are the two things that people are having a hard time grappling with. Yes, it was a poorly timed tweet, but no one in their right mind deserves to seek violent death threats. And this should not be playing out on social media. And when it comes to McLean's, it's
yeah, but she started it on social media, and Twitter is like the only place you can respond to someone directly and make sure they see it. Would it be better if they emailed her 100 emails or 1,000 of emails threatening her? I don't think that would have been better.
Quite interesting because they're casting subjective punishment depending on who you are as an individual. They have many individuals on their roster, whether they're staff writers or whether they're freelancers, who say wildly inappropriate things all the time. So how is it that this one particular person faces this particular punishment and receives this statement while others don't?
Well, they probably do. If they're like, people say shit on Twitter and start arguments all the time. But hers happen to be more high profile, so I mean, that's what I think.
Yeah.
So they're not punishing her.
Exactly. So I think there needs to be greater Well, in terms of issuing a statement and slandering her, she got slandered through this statement, which is going to follow her for the rest of her life. But I'm just saying that.
What? Oh, so is he talking about the company that said what she did was, massively inappropriate?
They're talking about McLean's, yeah.
So I noticed. Did you notice that the guy? I forget his name. Corin.
Yeah.
Conan.
Corin.
He was Corin. He looks skeptical. I know you can't see it, but he has this face of like he makes the Fry face, like not sure if. Yeah. He doesn't buy it that it's
well, in terms of issuing the statement and slandering her.
Yeah, slander. He doesn't buy it as slander.
No, she got slandered through this statement, which is going to follow her for the rest of her life. But I'm just saying that there needs to be some standards set across the board. I would like to see greater transparency from news outlets and from just publishing agencies in general in regards to what is okay and what is not okay, and what is the repercussions for doing certain things, and that's not what's happening here.
All right, well, we have to leave it there. A good start to this discussion. It doesn't end here, I hope. Jeremy Diaz, Brittany Andrew Amofa, and Michael Corin, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't understand, like, cause okay, just putting it out there, like with the gym thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am getting slandered.
Absolutely.
Right. So is HBB. So is Mike. Right. We're getting slandered, not because he, repeated something that we said, right, and then was like, or not because we said something and then he, like a bunch of people came down on us, but because he started some kind of fucked up myth that Mike defended a pedophile, that, and he repeated it over and over and over and over again for months. And then Worski, his fans took The honey badgers are money grubbers because they take money for X and spend it on X, and we don't approve of them spending money on X.
Yeah.
You know, and turned that into slander.
After telling everyone
you know,
they were going to spend the money on X. And then those people saying, I think they should be able to spend money on X. Here's money so you can spend it on X. Okay, good. Thanks for the money. Let's go spend it on X.
Like, I've literally had to spell it out for people, okay? Like, literally, okay. The accusations by the 4 people that Worski had on the stream, right? That would lead to accusations of financial fraud, right? Which is what I'm fielding everywhere I go for the last month, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You should open your books. You should show your tax returns. You should do an audit, blah, 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 right? Right. Those allegations were, they take money for X, they then spend it on X, but we don't like that they spend money on X.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no fraud there.
Nope.
It's just you take money to go to conferences and go on trips and to meetups and stuff like that, right? People are willing to pay you to do that, right? To do what you say you're going to do. But we think you should be setting up a men's domestic violence shelter instead with that money.
But real life activism is cringe.
I know. Isn't that hilarious? And here's the thing too, right? Like that would be if we took money that we were collecting for conferences, events, and meetups and spent it on a men's domestic violence shelter instead. That would be financial fraud, right? And on top of that, how the fuck? Mike's in London. I'm in Edmonton. Allison's in buttfuck Saskatchewan. Brian's in Chicago. Hannah is in Dayton, Ohio, right? Fucking Anna and her guy are in fucking
California,
San Francisco or something now.
Yeah, San Francisco, I think.
Where are we even going to put this shelter, and how are we going to collectively run it? Like, and none of us are qualified to even run a shelter. And how while we're all collectively running the shelter, are we going to be putting up the content that earns us the money, the $11,000 a month, that pays for the fucking shelter?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'd rather do? I'd rather shill Cafe's fundraiser for Toronto's first domestic violence shelter for men. I'd rather do that. Like,
absolutely.
What the fucking fuck?
Well,
and then the you're incompetent, disbarred lawyer, and it's like, yeah, no, he was disbarred because he was competent at lawyering, too competent at lawyering, and not competent enough at bookkeeping. But thanks, right?
Yeah.
Like
the trolls don't care about the facts. I mean, you shouldn't.
No, they don't.
They don't. Their allegations seriously.
They care about the drama.
Okay, I want you to listen to me, okay? I am trying to do activism in real life. Okay? I have booked 9:35 a.m. Eastern Time, Charlie James, Charleston, South Carolina, 15 minutes, talk radio. 11:35 a.m. Eastern Time, Ken Brew, Cincinnati, Ohio, 15 minutes, talk radio. April 23rd, 11:30 a.m. Stuart Venner National Talk Radio, 10 minutes. Okay, so I have these booked. This is what I've got booked so far. I will have more when they come in. Okay, I did 14 fucking talk radio interviews or something like that in 1 week just recently. Okay, because I have a publicist now. So I am, and these are virgin audiences. These are audiences who don't know anything about the men's rights movement. They may be anti-feminist, but they're just conservative, mostly conservative talk radio. And dog, shut up. And so essentially, every time they close one of these segments, they're like, "And where can people find you?" And I have to say, they can find me on Twitter at Girl Writes What. Okay, and if they arrive at my Twitter and find it full of accusations of pedophile apologia, wanting to sue people, wanting to dox people, right? Wanting to, what are they going to think?
Right.
Okay. If I go and comment on a Jonathan Pye video, who's left wing, right?
Yeah.
And the very first reply to that comment is, something to the effect of, oh, you defended a pedo and you're defrauding people out of money, right? I have to answer that. That's like a brand new fucking territory. I'm there recruiting.
You should answer those. Yes, I mean.
Yeah, and you know what? Okay, and I should answer them. Okay, but how many fucking hours this month should I have to spend answering baseless, false allegations that are sourced, that originate with Jim, okay, and his slander, and like to say that, oh, just ignore it. No, I can't. Allison probably could, right? Because Allison is in a completely different fucking position. Shut up, dog. HBB is in a completely different position than me. They have much fewer subscribers. They're a much more niche channel. They have huge, like, you know how much I make on Patreon a month? $700 and something. Mm-hmm. And I have 190,000 subscribers. Honey Badger Brigade makes fucking $11,000 a month on Patreon, and they have
40
a quarter of my subscribers.
Yeah.
Okay. They are in a completely, like, so the fans of HBB, the subscribers of HBB are much more willing to throw their money at HBB.
Yeah.
Okay. They are much more hardcore. They are like, you have HBB has a massive core base of loyal fans, right? I'm the one who's trying to go mainstream with people who don't know me and trust me, who have no history with me. And I've got this constant influx now. My channel's growing, right? And it's growing at an accelerated pace now that I've got all these fucking external gigs, right? Because people come and they're like, oh my God, I listened to some of your stuff, right? I came here from wherever, and Crowder or Jesse Lee Peterson or whatever. And your stuff is great, right? Yeah, well, but the problem is I haven't built up any trust with them yet. And so if they come to my Twitter feed and all they see is all these fucking allegations of, me being a bad MRA because I called JF a pedo, which I never fucking did, or I even, she just automatically believed the allegations against JF, and which I never fucking did. But Jim clipped 34 seconds out of a 12-minute conversation about what people are going to think about JF, and 34 seconds that made it look like I was talking about what I think about JF, to play live on a fucking 4,000 fucking viewer Kumite, or no, Warski Live, right? Play it for JF, and now everybody thinks that I'm a bad MRA because I just automatically assume that because JF was accused of things, I'm ready to, like, say he's guilty and call him a pedo.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, like, this is fucking. So I don't mind being disagreed with. I don't mind being called a cunt. I don't mind being told I look like a fucking lesbo tranny. Right? I don't mind any of that. I don't mind being told I'm sick, I have internalized misogyny, whatever, right? But when someone like Jim is fucking orchestrating a character assassination campaign, right, while lying through his teeth to people's faces, and I can prove every single fucking time that he is lying, right?
Yeah.
And that results in me being followed all over the place and having to actually deal with allegations in public places of crime, right? Financial fraud is a crime. Deal with those. I have to deal with those, right? Because I can't let them stand. Because if I let them stand, the people who are there watching and looking on aren't going to just assume, oh, these are baseless allegations. And she's just choosing to ignore the troll.
Yeah, Jim and his army of trolls are dishonest cunts. You know what this reminds me of? Wasn't it at one of the ICMIs that one guy brought a pedophile that said,
Yes.
"Oh,
It was the one in Detroit, right?
Yeah, Jeff Charlotte was the one who brought the pedophile with him.
So isn't this kind of similar? I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, and the GQ article that Jeff Charlotte wrote. Did you actually read that article? Did you look at the photos? That
Oh
they
yeah,
had
the
of
terrible photos,
Sage
the
and Paul
super high.
and Crystal Garcia,
Uh-huh.
where they photoshopped them to make them all look like hillbillies and crack addicts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the Hills Have Eyes kind of people, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, with terrible
kind of
skin and like it was such a hack
and
job.
those dead soulless eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys manage to watch the doctor's video about
I
the whole
did. Yes,
drama
yes.
thing?
Yes.
And he made a really excellent point, for somebody like Jim who says, "Oh, I really hate pedophiles." He's actually convincing the pedophile that there are people who are supporting him, which is insane. He's giving legitimacy to the pedophile
Yes.
by doing that.
Yes.
And it's
and then there's Tonka, right? Like, so Allison called out Tonka because at the end of the last stream with the pedo Ross, right? Because they did a stream on April 9th in the evening on Kumite, right? With Ross. And at the end of it, when the crowd was all fucking, Jim had just said, "Well, I gotta go," right? And then everybody was talking about how they wanted to, it'd be worth going to jail to kick Ross's ass or maybe even kill him and stuff, right? They were whipped up to maximum outrage.
Jim said he wanted to kill him, and he said all pedophiles should be lined up and shot.
Yeah. But all of the people, everybody, the people in the stream, the people in the chat, they were just maximum outrage, peak outrage. Okay. And then Jim left. And then Tonka says, "Remember, this is the cat that Rantzerker Cam and the Money Badgers hopped on a hill to defend."
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's what he said.
Yep.
And then Failure got in touch with Allison. I think he reached out to her to ask, like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, did you guys defend Ross? Right?
Yeah.
And so he had a private DM conversation. She had a private DM conversation with him. And then she asked me, like, okay, like, where is he getting this idea? Right? Because Failure was just like, I don't even really know a whole lot about Ross the pedophile. Like, was all new to me, really.
Mm-hmm.
And so essentially, she called. I told her that Tonka had said it because my boyfriend was watching the stream, and he played it for me, right? And so I told her what Tonka said, and Jim had actually said the exact same thing about a while earlier, a couple minutes into the stream or whatever, but Tonka reiterated it right at the end of that segment, and so she called out Tonka on Twitter, and he said, "Actually, I specifically said the opposite of that, right? And I've been more than fair to you guys." Okay.
Yeah.
So I linked him the fucking timestamp, and I gave him the direct quote in writing. "Remember, this is the cat that Rantzerker Cam and the Money Badgers hopped on a hill to defend." Right? Then he comes back at me and says, "I was posing it as a question." And I was like, bull fucking shit. Why are you lying to my face, you fuck? Right? And then he said, "I went out of my way later in that stream to say that I don't think that anyone would actually defend Ross." And I said, "I'd appreciate a timestamp to that to see if you actually included us in it." Right? Like, I don't even think the Money Badgers actually would defend Ross. Right? Okay, so can you give me a timestamp? And he said, "I'm not going to do your work for you. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And then, like, how is you having to back up your claim of having said something doing my work for me? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
really?
What the fuck, right? And then he got all pissy with me. Then I talked to Failure. Failure told me that after he had talked to Allison, he had the next day in a different stream raised the subject, raised the topic, and Tonka had acknowledged that even if the Money Badgers and Randomer Cam did originally defend a pedophile after last night's stream, he didn't think they would defend him now, which is not the exact opposite of what I claimed he had said, right? And so I'm like, what the fucking fuck, right? Like, they're a bunch of fucking liars, right? And Failure, I was like, and Failure was getting pissed off because I was like, getting really fucking furious, right? And I'm ragging the shit, and this is all in DMs, right? I'm ragging the shit out of Failure. I'm like fucking reaming him out. I'm like, what the fuck? And he's like, why are you getting on my case? I didn't even say it. I don't even know anything about this. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. I get it. You have two women who are laying into you, right, about this. And we are fucking spitting mad. Okay, and it's not your fucking fault. But you are the only one who's willing to actually fucking listen to us and even consider it plausible that our side of the story has some validity to it, right? So you're our last fucking hope, Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? Like, maybe you could fucking take a step.
More like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Okay, go ahead.
Whatever. And maybe you could like do us a fucking solid and pin a fucking tweet.
Yeah.
Pin a fucking tweet to the effect that, you know, like, actually we were mistakenly, you know, described.
It's almost
as
like they have to
defended a
own their
pedophile.
shit.
Yeah. Well, you know, because this is your fucking streaming partner, and maybe you didn't know anything about it then, but you know about it now, right? And you can do something about it, and he won't. And if he won't, what does that fucking say about him?
Right.
The whole situation is that Jim Segal got kicked, you know, by the doctor, and he's willing to slander you, and the rest of these fuckers are just afraid of him. That's simple as that.
Oh, they're terrified. And so Failure pinned the tweet for like 2, maybe 3 hours. Okay, got lots of upvotes and stuff and retweets, but he pinned it for 2 or 3 hours, and then he unpinned it, and I don't know why he would unpin it, since there was no other pinned tweet that went up in its stead, right? Other than Jim or fucking Tonka had a talk with him and said, what the fuck are you doing? You're fucking with our narrative. Right? And Failure was like totally like, he was like, I don't even think, in his tweet was essentially saying, I don't know that there's anyone to blame here. I think it was just a big misunderstanding.
All right.
Yeah. And so it wasn't even like Tonka saw lied or anything. It was just like, oh, it was a mistake. You know, I guess this is what the argument was. I think it was just kind of a misunderstanding. And I don't know what the deal is here, but, you know, I don't think that they defended a pedo. Right. And, yeah, no. So he had to take that down real quick. But yeah, it's like, and he told me in the DMs that he's looking to like turn his channel into a chill morning radio show rather than blood sports, wanting to back away from it, just like Warski has been. And it's
almost like it didn't. It's almost like this thing didn't actually have a whole much of a life cycle on it anyway.
Well, but what happens when anybody wants to fucking break away from blood sports, right? Warski is subjected to like fucking days and days of bitching and nagging and scolding and fucking belittling and rubbing his face in shit. Yeah, rubbing his face in shit until he comes back into the fold. Right? And Baked Alaska, right? Yeah. Jim was trying to pull him back into the fold, and then fucking Baked Alaska poked him in his anonymity, and then fucking Jim lost his shit and essentially said, your career's over. And, oh, look at that. It is. Because I don't know if you guys watched that stream, but you know, Jim came on to tell him to stop tone policing his chat or language policing his chat. Yeah. Right? And he wanted to do the thing he did with Andy, which is like, let's rub his face in the shit a little bit, make him grovel, you know, kick him a few times and then invite him back in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're welcome to come back to the cult, right? And, you know, now that you've taken your punishment. But Baked Alaska said something about, you know, like, okay, like I have people saying in my chat, like, kill all niggers and shit, right? Like I'm trying to do things in real life. You know, it's real easy for you to say, don't language police, right? I'm out here in real life trying to do real things.
Yeah.
And you're anonymous. Okay. And then Jim fucking flipped. He fucking lost his shit.
You want to dox me? So.
And then, yeah, three minutes of yelling later.
Well,
okay.
well,
Okay. Listen. 3 minutes of yelling later.
Let me just get this straight.
Okay.
You're saying that.
Just wait. Let me tell my fucking story to the
Okay.
end, for fuck's sake.
All right.
3 minutes later, Baked says, then why don't you show your fucking face, Jim? And then Jim goes into about 30 seconds of incoherent profanities and screaming, promises Baked Alaska his career is over, and rage quits the stream.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Pulls the king of pole.
I guess certain someone's arguments really did sting him.
Yeah.
Well, you know, like, and what, like, I was all over his fucking Twitter, tagging him in tweets, calling the internet blood sports gross, calling it like beating retards with lead pipes for people's entertainment, right? All of this stuff. He never fucking took any notice of me until I said, hey, Jim, why don't you actually do this under your real name and real face, you know, before you start calling other people pussies for not showing up and facing you? And that was what got his attention.
Yeah.
That's where his fucking sore spot is. Because he's a fucking coward. And
lesson learned.
Because he's...
Let me take this the after show offline. You guys can keep talking, but I gotta help make dinner and get ready for these dogs that are coming that I'm gonna be.
Oh my god.
So I gotta go, guys. If you're listening, sorry,
right,
this conversation will continue, actually. But it was a good one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, have a great morning. I'm just gonna it's just wherever you are in the world, it's probably morning because